Emma Collins turned 34 with a strange feeling in her chest, something between quiet hope and quiet fear. She lived in Seattle, worked long hours at a marketing firm, and had spent most of the last year trying to rebuild her life after a painful breakup. She wasn't looking for romance, not really. She just wanted one evening where she didn't feel tired or invisible. So she decided she would celebrate her birthday alone, not out of sadness, but out of a promise she made to herself. One night, one chance to feel alive again. She chose a rooftop lounge she had never visited before. It wasn't loud or crowded, just classy, warm, filled with soft jazz and golden lights reflecting on glass walls. The city below looked like a painting. It was the kind of place where people talked quietly, where strangers sometimes shared moments that didn't feel like accidents. The elevator doors opened, and as Emma stepped inside the lounge, she felt the warm air brush against her skin. For the first time in months, she felt present. She took one deep breath, walked to the bar, and ordered a simple drink. She wasn't there to impress anyone. She just wanted peace. But peace was not what she found, because the moment she sat down, someone noticed her. Noah Harper. She didn't know his name yet. She didn't know his story or why he seemed like he carried the weight of a whole year behind his gentle smile. She only noticed that he had kind eyes, the kind that looked like they had seen both joy and heartbreak. He was sitting 2 seats away when she arrived, and he watched her as if he recognized something familiar in her loneliness. He waited a moment, then walked over with a respectful distance. "Is this seat taken?" he asked softly. Emma shook her head. "No, go ahead." He sat, but not too close, just enough to speak without raising his voice. "It's a nice place," he said. "Good view. Good music. Not too loud." "It's perfect," she replied. He smiled. "Celebrating something?" "Yeah. My birthday." His eyebrows lifted a little. "Really, happy birthday." It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't flirtatious. It felt honest, simple, warm. The kind of warmth Emma didn't realize she had been missing. They talked for a few minutes, nothing too personal. Just stories about work, hobbies, favorite places in the city. He listened carefully, and she liked that. She didn't feel like she had to perform or pretend then. Just as she started feeling comfortable, someone bumped lightly into her shoulder. Ethan Reyes. Bright smile. Confident posture. The kind of man who seemed to carry sunshine wherever he went. He apologized immediately. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you there," he said, laughing nervously. "I swear I wasn't trying to ruin your night." Emma laughed. "It's okay. You didn't." But Ethan kept apologizing anyway, until she finally said, "Really? I'm fine." And he relaxed. Noah stepped back politely, giving Ethan space. And that simple gesture made her notice how different the two men were. Noah, quiet, gentle. Ethan, warm, bold. Ethan ordered a drink and somehow ended up in a conversation with both of them. His energy filled the space in a way that made Emma smile without trying. He didn't flirt either. He just talked like meeting new people was the best part of his day. And then, during a pause in the conversation, someone else joined. Liam Carter, tall.com. A man with a thoughtful expression who spoke slowly, choosing each word with care. He had been sitting alone near the window, watching the city lights. And when the bartender told him it was Emma's birthday, he stood up and walked over. "Happy birthday," he said simply. His voice was low, steady, almost soothing. He didn't linger, didn't push for attention. He just offered the words, nodded, and took the empty seat beside Ethan when the bartender motioned to him. Emma felt the energy shift. 3 different men all near her, all with completely different personalities. Noah gentle, Ethan bright, Liam calm. It didn't feel chaotic. It felt like life had suddenly opened a door. She didn't know she had permission to walk through. She didn't flirt with any of them. She didn't try to attract anyone's attention. She was simply herself. And that seemed to be enough. Then the door opened one more time, and Emma froze for a second. Caleb Morris taught her old friend, the one she had grown up with in a small town outside Seattle before they drifted apart in their 20s. They had shared laughter, secrets, dreams, but life took them in different directions. She hadn't seen him in 8 years. He recognized her immediately, Emma, he said, stunned. She stood up without thinking. Caleb. They hugged soft, surprised but full of memories. What are you doing here? She asked. I moved back last month, he said. I came here to meet a friend, but I can't believe you're here on the same night. Noah, Ethan, and Liam watched with quiet curiosity, sensing the history between them. Caleb didn't try to dominate the moment. He simply smiled at her with the kind of familiarity only old friends share. The night unfolded naturally after that. The 5 of them, Mima, Noah, Ethan, Liam, and Caleb ended up at one table, sharing stories, laughing at small things, talking about life, work, and the strange twists that bring people together. Emma wasn't used to this kind of attention. Not in a romantic way, but in a human way. 3 new strangers wanting to know her, and one old friend happy to find her again. It felt overwhelming, but in a soft, beautiful way. She noticed something surprising. Each man made her feel a different emotion. Noah made her feel understood. Ethan made her feel seen. Liam made her feel calm. Caleb made her feel remembered. She wasn't used to feeling all 4 at once. It was strange, confusing, and yet she didn't want the night to end. There was no jealousy between the men. No competition. They all treated her respectfully, listened to her, and included one another in the conversation. It felt like a once-in-a-lifetime gathering, one she hadn't planned, yet somehow needed. When the lounge started closing, Emma stood up, unsure of how to end the night. She wasn't expecting anyone to walk her home. Yet all 4 men offered at the same time. I can walk with you, Noah said gently. I can drive you. If you prefer, Ethan added. I'm heading in the same direction, Liam said quietly. I'll come too if that's okay, Caleb said. Looking hopeful, Emma laughed softly, overwhelmed by kindness, not attention. It's okay, she said. You don't have to. Really? But they insisted, not in a pushy way, but in a respectful, caring way. In the end, she let them walk with her to the street level. They parted ways at the corner, each saying something that stayed with her long after she returned home from Ethan. Happy birthday. Emma, tonight was better because of you. From Liam, take care of yourself. You deserve good things. From Caleb, I'm glad I found you again. And from Noah, the quietest but the most sincere. I hope this wasn't the last time we talk. Emma walked into her apartment with a heart she didn't recognize, full, mixed, hopeful, confused. She didn't know where the night would lead. She didn't know why the universe had placed 4 men in her path at the same time, but she did know one thing. Something had shifted inside her. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't running. For the first time in years, she felt like something new, something big was beginning. She changed into comfortable clothes, washed off her makeup, and sat on the edge of her bed with her phone in her hand. She wasn't expecting anything, but part of her wondered if the night had meant as much to them as it had to her. She rested her head on the pillow and closed her eyes. Minutes later, her phone buzzed. Then again, and again, and again. When she unlocked it, she froze. For messages from 4 different men, each one sent at nearly the same time, each message carrying a different promise, a different emotion, a different beginning. Emma stared at the screen, her heartbeat quickening, her breath catching softly. She wanted something new this year. She wanted to feel something real again. She never expected it to come from 4 different directions at once, but life doesn't always follow the plans we make. Sometimes it gives us more than we ask for. Sometimes it gives us exactly what we're not ready for. Sometimes it gives us all 4, and her story was only just starting. Emma stared at her phone for what felt like hours. For messages, for notifications from 4 different men she had only met that night tour in Caleb's case. Seen after years, but each message carried the weight of possibility. Noah's words were soft, careful, thoughtful. Ethan's were energetic, warm, playful. Liam's carried quiet attention, the kind that made her feel understood. And Caleb's were nostalgic, familiar, like a part of her she thought had disappeared had returned. Her heart raced. She didn't know where to start. Should she reply? Should she wait? But a part of her wanted to respond immediately to all of them. She typed and erased words, unsure how to capture the sudden whirlwind of emotions that had taken over her. She had wanted more than quiet, more than stability, more than the predictable patterns of her life. And somehow she had received all of it at once. The next morning, Emma decided to step outside. She needed fresh air, clarity, and a sense of direction. Seattle's streets were damp with early fall drizzle, but the crisp air cleared her thoughts. She walked slowly, replaying the previous night in her mind. Each man had left a distinct mark. Noah with his gentle attention, Ethan with his infectious energy, Liam with his calm intensity, Caleb with his familiar warmth. She had never imagined a night could feel so full, so alive, so charged with quiet possibility. Her first thought was Noah. He had quietly stayed by her side, listening, offering kindness without expectation. She felt drawn to his sincerity. She sent him a message first, keeping it short. "Thank you for last night. I really enjoyed talking with you." She didn't expect an immediate reply, but within minutes, his response appeared. Simple, thoughtful, inviting. "I'm glad. Would you like to meet for coffee sometime?" Emma smiled, feeling the kind of warmth that came from being genuinely seen. It was a small invitation, but to her it felt monumental. Before she could even think about Ethan, her phone buzzed again. He had replied almost immediately. "Your birthday party was brighter because of you. Dinner this week?" His message carried charm, but it also carried energy, a pulse she couldn't ignore. Emma laughed softly. Ethan's enthusiasm was contagious, and she felt a spark just imagining him talking, laughing, teasing in his effortless way. Liam's response came next, quieter, more deliberate. "I hope your day is as calm and beautiful as the night we spent. Would you like to meet and walk around the park?" Liam had a way of grounding her. His message made her feel steady in the chaos of the previous night's whirlwind. There was no pressure in his words, only attention, only thoughtfulness. Emma knew that a walk with him would be calm, slow, and meaningful, a contrast to the electric energy she felt with Ethan. Then came Caleb. His message was a blend of past and present, nostalgia and possibility. "Seeing you again last night reminded me of how much I've missed our talks. Can we catch up soon?" Emma's chest tightened. There was comfort in familiarity, in the history they shared. She hadn't expected to feel this way with him after so many years, but the bond was undeniable. Caleb had been a part of her life once, and now, like a chapter reopened. He had quietly returned. Emma didn't want to overthink her next steps. She knew the temptation to rush, to choose, to try and resolve the whirlwind of emotions was strong. But she also knew that rushing would spoil the beauty of this moment. She decided to take a measured approach, responding to each man individually, setting small, intentional meetings over the coming days. Coffee with Noah, dinner with Ethan, a walk with Liam, and a long conversation with Caleb. Each encounter would be its own story, its own space for connection. The first meeting was with Noah, at a quiet little cafe tucked away in a side street. He was waiting when she arrived, smiling softly. They talked about work, books, and favorite spots in the city. Emma noticed how he listened, not just hearing her words, but understanding them. There was depth in his gaze, a quiet patience that made her feel safe. They laughed softly over shared memories of childhood, discussed dreams, and even fears. Noah's presence was calming, yet subtly stirring, like a gentle current beneath a still lake. By the time they parted, Emma felt light, yet heavy with the realization that her heart was opening in ways she hadn't anticipated. The next evening, she met Ethan for dinner at a vibrant little restaurant downtown. The atmosphere was lively, filled with music and chatter, matching Ethan's energy perfectly. He had a way of making every small detail feel like an adventure. They talked about travel, passions, past mistakes, and future dreams. Ethan's laughter was infectious, his enthusiasm magnetic. Emma found herself swept up in his energy, smiling more freely than she had in months. When the dinner ended, she realized she felt exhilarated, alive in a way that only Ethan could bring. He made the world feel brighter, bigger, more possible. 2 days later, Liam invited her to meet at a city park, a place where the leaves had started turning gold and orange. They walked slowly, side by side, speaking softly. He asked questions about her life, her thoughts, her heart. Unlike Ethan, Liam didn't rush, didn't push, didn't try to impress. He simply shared his own experiences when appropriate and encouraged her to explore hers. Emma felt a different kind of connection, one that was deep, quiet, and grounding. There was intimacy in silence, in shared observation, in knowing someone cared enough to simply be present. Liam's calm presence balanced the whirlwind Emma had felt with Noah and Ethan. Finally, she met Caleb at a small rooftop garden cafe, a place that reminded her of their teenage years in the quiet town where they grew up. Their conversation flowed naturally, seamlessly bridging the years they had missed. Caleb listened to her stories, remembered details she had thought forgotten, and shared his own experiences in ways that felt both familiar and new. Their laughter felt like coming home. Their silence felt comfortable. Caleb had a way of making Emma feel known, of threading the past and present together into something warm and tender. She realized she had missed him more than she had allowed herself to admit. Days turned into weeks, and Emma found herself navigating a delicate balance of emotions. Each man brought something unique into her life, something she craved differently at different times. With Noah, she felt emotional clarity. With Ethan, she felt excitement and energy. With Liam, she felt calm and safety. With Caleb, she felt connection and history. No one demanded more than she was willing to give. No one asked her to choose immediately. They simply existed in her life as companions, each adding color, texture, and warmth to a world that had felt monochrome for too long. Emma realized something important: she didn't have to rush love. She didn't have to choose between feelings. And she didn't have to conform to society's expectation that one person is enough. Each man was a different chapter, a different perspective, a different layer of emotional truth. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to embrace complexity rather than fear it. Her heart was alive, open, and ready to experience love in many forms. One rainy afternoon, she sat alone by the window in her apartment, watching the city shimmer under the rain. She thought about the 4 men, each holding a part of her heart she hadn't expected to give away so quickly. She realized that while each connection was different, all of them shared something essential: respect, attention, care, and sincerity. She felt fortunate, grateful, and a little scared. Scared because this was new. Scared because she didn't know what the future held. But also exhilarated because this was life, raw and unfiltered, presenting itself in ways she hadn't dared imagine. Emma decided to embrace the journey. She would continue spending time with each man, exploring the emotions, connections, and experiences that came naturally. She would not force decisions. She would not manipulate feelings. And she would honor the unique bond she shared with each of them. She knew that clarity would come in its own time. And until then, she would allow herself to live fully, love openly, and enjoy the beauty of this rare, delicate balance. Weeks passed and the moments multiplied. Small gestures, shared laughs, thoughtful conversations, quiet touches, and gentle smiles became the rhythm of her life. Emma felt her heart expand, not in confusion or chaos, but in harmony. Each man contributed to her sense of self, to her joy, to her understanding of love. She was learning that love didn't have to be limited, controlled, or predictable. It could be multifaceted, rich, and deeply fulfilling in different ways, with different people in different moments. One evening, as she walked home from a cafe alone, she reflected on the journey so far. She had wanted more depth, more connection, more understanding, more passion, and life had given her all of it. She realized that wanting all 4 hadn't been selfish. It had been brave. It had been an honest acknowledgement of the complexity of her heart, and receiving it all with respect and care from 4 men. had been a gift she hadn't expected but would treasure forever. She smiled softly, thinking about the messages she had received that first morning after her birthday. At that time, the idea of balancing all four seemed overwhelming. But now, after weeks of laughter, connection, reflection, and genuine emotional engagement, she understood something profound. Life didn't demand she fit love into a box. Love, in its purest form, was expansive. It could hold joy, excitement, calm, and nostalgia all at once. It could honor the past while celebrating the present.